Welcome to TV African News and thank you so much for joining us. This is Africa Today. My name is Nahawe Kajura, but first are the headlines. Over 200 Ugandans evacuated. High Court dismisses Fred Nyazi petition challenging Mohamed Nsereko victory. Kenya's brutal says starvation deaths of pastors' followers akin to terrorism. In a sports news today, Buganda Premier Maiga co-drives for Rally Erkesin Nessa. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. We start with one of our top stories. 208 individuals, including 202 Ugandans, 2 Sudanese, 3 Tanzanians, and 1 Zimbabwean married to a Ugandan, have finally been rescued from Khartoum, the fighting center of the Sudan civil war. Those rescued, according to sources, are heading to Gonda Airport in Ethiopia, where they will be board a plane to Uganda.
According to a statement released by the Office of the Ambassador, the evacuees boarded 4 buses from the embassy in Khartoum on Sunday. These include, among others, diplomats, students, and members of the working community. It will take an approximate 12 hours and 45 minutes for the evacuees to travel a 761-kilometer journey from Khartoum to Gonda. These are expected to fly back to Uganda from Gonda Airport, located some 935 kilometers northwest of Addis Ababa. This indicates that about 100 Ugandans are not part of the evacuees after government last week announced 300 Ugandans were trapped in Sudan. In a statement, Uganda's ambassador to Sudan, Dr. Rashid Yahya Semudu, said that the group that is not traveling via Ethiopia are the patients admitted at Salam Hospital, Khartoum, individuals stuck in various states but who had earlier indicated their readiness to travel, and some who preferred to stay back. An estimated 300 Ugandans are understood to have been in Sudan at the outbreak of the hostilities April 15, 2023, following clashes between the Sudan forces and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces commanded by General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, also known as Hemed.
Moving on, in our top stories, students from Karamoja sub-region under the National Unity Platform have given government an ultimatum of 2 weeks to respond to the situation in Karamoja. Now, these have promised to demonstrate in case no measures are taken in the time frame given.
Dressed in their cultural attires, chanting people power slogans, and shedding tears, students from different institutions affiliated to the National Unity Platform stormed the offices of NUP in Karamoja to express their concerns over the ongoing situation in Karamoja. These accused the government of deliberately keeping Karamojong suffering with hidden intentions of grabbing their land.
When the struggle is over, we shall wear the victor's crown in the new Uganda. People power, our power, people power.
Anista yet, the Abim District Youth Councillor on NUP ticket, demanded for government to respond to these plights in 2 weeks, and failure to do so will orchestrate a demonstration.
If the government is not going to resolve this in the next 2 weeks or so, we are going to go back home and mobilize our people to demonstrate until something is done. We cannot keep in a situation where people oppress us and yet the Constitution gives us the right to demonstrate.
Simon Acheng and other students from the same sub-region said that the raids are carried out by government soldiers who later slam them on the locals, hence the said cattle rustling and insecurities.
We are being killed like dogs. Soldiers are killing. Raiders are also killing. Where shall we raid? Where shall we go to be secured from? Both angles, where we run anywhere, we are also being killed. The government of this country, Uganda, is intentionally leaving people of Karamoja sub-region to die, and they come and grab our lands. They come and grab our animals. Right now, they are taking our animals. We don't know where they are taking. They come with intentions of keeping our animals in barracks. But in actual senses, they transport this animal somewhere at night, and they leave us with poverty, which increasing the rate between our neighbors.
Not every Karamojong who does the raids wants to do it. It's conditional. They do it for a reason. The raids are out of poverty. Most Karamojongs are staying in the lives of no help, and all they can do is to go raid their fellows to get a living or to earn a living. That's because they are very poor, they're helpless, and we also call ourselves citizens of Uganda.
On the other hand, Waisra Mufumbiro, the NUP Deputy Speaker, demanded for the resignation of Speaker of Parliament Anita Mongi for involving in the Iron Sheet scandal.
Whom Mabati found its way to his home, to the compound of Gitutu, then it means that everybody who gave orders on that Mabati should be arrested. The brother did not have any power whatsoever. He was using from the power of the sister. Who is the rich person? Who is the minister? You cannot question when things have been brought home. It is like a child being charged for taking milk brought by the mother.
For years, insecurities, poverty, and among other calamities have befallen Karamoja sub-region, leaving the sub-region underdeveloped with high levels of suffering.
More of our top stories. The High Court in Kampala has dismissed with costs a petition filed by National Unity Platform's Fred Nyanzi Sentamo challenging the victory of Mohamed Nsereko as Member of Parliament for Kampala Central Division. The High Court Judge Jesse Byarahanga dismissed the case on grounds that the petitioner failed to provide evidence of non-compliance of electoral offences which can prove the allegations of bribery and ballot stuffing. The judges ruled that no witnesses were brought by Nyanzi to pin Nsereko on election harassment and ballot stuffing by the military. The petitioner did not give compelling reasons for the recount of votes according to the judges. Shortly after the court ruling, Nsereko thanked his voters for standing with him, adding that he will continue to serve the people of Kampala. In 2022, the Court of Appeal ordered a fresh hearing of a petition in which Nyanzi was contesting the election of Nsereko as the MP for Kampala Central. The panel of 3 justices comprising Geoffrey, Stephen Musota, and Christopher delivered the ruling after setting aside a High Court decision which dismissed Nyanzi's petition. Nyanzi sued the Electoral Commission, the Kampala Returning Officer, and Nsereko in March 2021, citing electoral irregularities including voter bribery. Nsereko was declared the winner with 16,998 votes, while Nyanzi came second with 15,975 votes. We take a quick break. She'll come back with the international news. Welcome back to the break. You're still watching TV Africa, the right to know. In international news, Kenyan President William Ruto on Monday promised action against terrorism cults that choose religion after the deaths of 58 followers of a cult in the east of the country sparked a debate over security and legislative loopholes against such organizations.
Such operations were continuing on Monday in Shakaholo Forest near the coastal town of Malindi, where dozens of bodies have been exhumed from mass graves in recent days. According to Kenya's police chief, Japhet Koome, a total of 58 people are confirmed dead, and these include bodies exhumed and those who died on their way to the hospital. The victims are followers of the Good News International Church led by Paul Mackenzie Nthenge, according to the court documents seen by the media, a pastor who advocates fasting to meet Jesus. Accused of leading his followers to death, he surrendered to the police and has been in custody since April 14th. Speaking at a graduation ceremony for prison officers in central Kenya, President William Ruto said that they have seen in Shakaholo akin to terrorists. He said he had asked the responsible agencies to take up the issue and get to the root and the bottom of the activities of religions and people who want to use religion to advance a shady and unacceptable ideology. These macabre discoveries raised many questions about the attitude of the authorities who knew about this pastor for several years.
Moving on, Egyptians were fleeing conflict-ridden Sudan on Monday as fighting continues there between 2 rival generals in Africa's 3rd largest country. Now, coaches streamed through Egypt's Agrin border with Sudan carrying evacuees on board. Over 420 people, including 264 civilians, have been killed and over 3,700 wounded in the fighting between the Sudanese armed forces led by General Abdul Fattah al-Burhan and the powerful paramilitary group known as the Rapid Support Forces, or RSF, led by the General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo. Foreign governments have also been airlifting hundreds of their diplomats and other citizens to safety from Sudan. According to Mona Othman, Sudanese national, there is a heavy shelling. There is no water, no electricity. It is an unstable situation and jets are over them all the time, over the capital, and they never expected something like the evacuation at all, even in dreams, especially in Khartoum. Last week, Egypt's military evacuated 177 soldiers. On Sunday, the foreign minister said 436 citizens had left by land. Over 10,000 Egyptians are thought to live in Sudan.
However, from that, Comoros said on Monday that it had refused to allow a boat carrying migrants from Mayotte, where French authorities have announced a controversial operation against illegal migrants, to dock. We have more.
According to Comoran Interior Minister Fakhrdin Mahmoud, the boat carrying migrants from Mayotte had suspended passenger traffic at a port where deported migrants usually land, adding that none of the deported migrants will enter a Comoran port. The country's maritime services company also said that the Mutsamudu port was suspending passenger traffic from Monday until Wednesday. Authorities in the French overseas territory of Mayotte announced that they would launch Operation Wambushu, literally meaning take back, to remove illegal migrants who have settled in slums on the island. The plan was for those without papers to be sent back to the Comoran island of Anjouan, 70 kilometers away from Mayotte. The Indian Ocean archipelago of the Comoros had warned last week that it would not accept migrants expelled under the plan that has triggered a diplomatic spat.
The world's largest rhino conservation farm is going up for auction in South Africa. This is according to the rhino farm owner John Holmes, who has been spending money on the population for the last 30 years.
A former businessman who made his fortune developing tourist resorts said he fell in love with the animals somewhat by accident, having bought the first specimen after retiring with dreams of running a farm. His heavily guarded farm at undisclosed location in Northwest Province has around 2,000 southern white rhinos, a species that was hunted to near extinction in the late 19th century but gradually recovered thanks to decades of protection and breeding efforts. South Africa is home to nearly 80% of the world's rhinos, making it a hotspot for poaching driven by demand from Asia, where horns are used in traditional medicine for their supposed therapeutic effect. The government said 448 of the rare animals were killed across the country last year, only 3 fewer than in 2021 despite increased protection at national parks such as renowned Kruger. On black markets where the price per weight rivals that of gold and cocaine at an estimated $60,000 per kilogram. The online auction opens on Wednesday and on offer is the farm with its animals, land and machinery. The horns were preventively cut off as a way to dissuade poachers from killing the animals and would be worth more than $500 million on the black market.
We take a quick break. She'll come back with business, health and sports. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching TV Africa, the right now. In a business news today, Kenya's opposition will resume anti-government protests from May 2nd, nearly 3 weeks after suspending rallies to take part in a dialogue with authorities. We have more.
According to Dennis Onyango, the spokesman for Raila Odinga, a veteran opposition leader who organized several anti-cost of living rallies in March, they will resume rallies from May 2nd and the demonstrations will be limited to Nairobi, the Kenyan capital. Onyango did not elaborate on the reasons for the renewed protests. Mr. Odinga had organized bi-weekly demonstrations on Monday and Thursdays since March 20th, accusing President William Ruto of stealing the August presidential election and of being unable to curb soaring prices. These rallies were banned by the police. Raila Odinga, 78, several times unsuccessful presidential candidate, had suspended the rallies in early April to participate in a dialogue with the government. According to the Kenyan president, who had called on the population to respect the rule of law, a bipartisan parliamentary committee was to explore the possibility of revising the electoral code. However, the head of state ruled out any alliance with his rival. Mr. Odinga welcomed the olive branch presented by Mr. Ruto, but warned that protests could resume if there was no progress.
In a health news today, extreme weather events in Malawi have driven very sharp rises in malaria infections and deaths, according to Global Health Chief, ahead of World Malaria Day on April 25th. Speaking to reporters, Peter Sands, head of Global Fund to Fight AIDS, Tuberculosis and Malaria, said that Cyclone Freddy in March triggered 6 months worth of rainfall in 6 days, causing cases there to spike too. He said that the dramatic increase in cases caused by climate change-driven weather disasters illustrated the need to get ahead of this now. In both countries, pools of water left behind as waters receded created ideal breeding grounds in malaria-carrying mosquitoes. The World Health Organization said there had been some progress made in the fight against malaria, but stressed that a child still dies of the disease every minute. In 2021, the World Health Organization said there were an estimated 247 million cases worldwide and 619,000 deaths attributed to malaria. Scientific breakthroughs saw more than 1 million children in Ghana, Kenya, and Malawi last year given the RTSA vaccine manufactured by the British pharmaceutical giant GSK. In a sports news today, it was all celebrations for MOIL rally team and the entire motor sports fraternity as Buganda Kingdom Prime Minister Owechitibwa Charles Peter Mayiga bravely took on the co-driving duties for speedster Yasin Nessa.
Fully armed with a headgear and the treasured cockpit notes, Owechitibwa Mayiga courageously embarked on the task at hand, whilst in the cockpit of Ford Fiesta R5 Nemo at Buloba Forest Park. The usual suspect Ali Katumba, normally the co-driver for NASA, watched on the sidelines as Owechitibwa Mayiga executed the special mission at hand. Owechitibwa Charles Peter Mayiga urged the use of road signs in native languages for easy interpretation of the different road users. The crew finished second behind winners Byron Rugomoka on a very wet and slippery terrain after the long day rains. Besides the fundraiser, the event was a precursor competition to fine-tune their machines ahead of the prestigious 2023 Power of Africa Rally, whose official launch is Tuesday, 25th April in Kampala.
Thank you so much for being part of us from where we started from. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We should keep updating you. It is TV Africa, the right to know.